There's two examples I would like to show you guys where black in both cases actually generated initiative through central breakthrough and tactical complexity. So this is the game we're going to start between both friends of mine. One is international master, another is an expert level playing with white pieces. So e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. So this is going to be Sicilian, and white chooses to go for open Sicilian, which is d4 right here. Pawn takes, knight takes, e6. So in this position, it's possible to play knight f6, it's possible to play d6, it's possible to play g6. All those moves are available. So e6 is one of them. It's the move that guards the d5 square as well as f5 square, potentially makes d5 possible and opens up this bishop to roam free along dark squares. So at this position, white actually played c4. So by the principle of the openings, we should solidify the center and make it strong. In this case, c4 is actually overstretching a little bit, and black proves that white's position is vulnerable. So at the knight defends the pawn on e4. An important distinction here is if knight f6, knight e6, pawn takes. So now black's knight no longer defends the e5 square. We can go and attack the knight on f6. But now all of a sudden black has the decisive tactics to win this pawn right here. Boom, queen a5 check, and the pawn on e5 is helpless. All of it's done with check, so this is all forced. Losing a central pawn like this is definitely not a good idea for white. So white defends with knight c3, and black continues on bishop b4, pinning white's knight. White decides to defend the pawn with f3. The problem with a move like bishop d3, for example, is that the knight on d4 is hanging. So at this point, white faces certain challenges. So f3, defending the central pawn, and black strikes with d5. So this is the kind of positions that I want you guys to be reaching in your games. As you can see, why black is ahead in material in developed pieces in fighting for the center, breaking through white's center. So white becomes vulnerable to powerful attack by black. So let's see how white handles it. I think actually this is fairly resourceful. So white goes ahead and captures the pawn on d5, e takes d, and instead of focusing on here or here, any of the immediate threats, white actually makes a proactive move, developing his powerful bishop to b5, pinning the knight on c6. So as this happens, it would be desirable for white to see black start defending with queen c7 or bishop d7. In this case, white could safely capture the pawn on d5 and potentially get a winning endgame. So after bishop b5, though, kind of like Italian, we're going to draw a perspective here and bring the analysis. So at this point, black just goes ahead and castles. And the cool part about it, black still retains a lot of the threats, such as queen b6, for example, bishop c5, if white king's castle. So white has to further investigate what this is going to lead to. So white takes the knight on c6, pawn takes, bishop takes c6, hitting the rook on a8. And at this point, the king is just about ready to escape. So we can try a move like queen b6, but then it's hard to find a follow-up after white captures the rook. After all, this is a whole big rook to lose in a game like this, and that is not gonna work for white. So white did ahead and take on c6, b takes c, bishop takes, and at this point the very strong move here is bishop a6. So what this move does is prevents the king from castling. So at this point, white cannot castle. So for example, let's say white goes ahead and takes on a8, queen takes d8, queen takes a8, and now White's king is really in trouble. Bishop is controlling the dark squares, and then the bishop on b4 is controlling the knight. d4 is about to happen, d takes e. Black is definitely getting the money worth in this situation. So as white takes on c6 and black plays bishop a6, white goes ahead and decides that it's time to capture this rook on a8. So now, instead of actually even taking the bishop, black comes up with an even stronger idea. So queen a8 is certainly has a point. Black is going to be in the game, pursuing initiative. Now though, we actually come up with a more straightforward idea, and that is going to be knight takes e4. So a powerful idea here, hitting the knight on c3 as it's pinned, making a quick check right here. Queen is coming to h4, hitting white's king, and the white's king is going to be exposed to the attack, not only in the center but alongside as well. So bishop takes c6, bishop a6. So white joins for the right and picks up the rook on a8, and that seemed like a mistake. So at this point, black actually delivers knight e4, similar to the previous position that we were looking at. So bishop f4, and in this case, I haven't really um, seen a possibility for white that the king can be escaping. So at this point, the number one option to really consider would be to take the knight with a f pawn on e4. At this point, everybody should know what black is aiming for, as the knight got off the way. Black's king is actually more flexible, it's stronger, so queen jumps out to the corner. At this point, g3, queen takes e4, check, hitting the rook on a8, and hitting the possibility of a checkmate, since the king is going to be in the web. So king goes to f2, so it's kind of a net where the king is getting caught. So bishop c5. So at this point, look at the situation. Bishop is cutting the light squares from a6. This bishop is hitting the dark squares, and the queen is definitely adding more ideas here, hitting the rook and taking over white's king side. So queen e4, king f2, bishop goes to c5, and at this point the game is over and finishes within a move or two.